Hi, I'm Liz.
And I'm Rhea.
Welcome to Karma's My Bitch, a podcast about love,
Sex,
connection,
abundance,
joy,
purpose,
peace,
and how life isn't simply the stories we tell ourselves. Okay, that's the question though, isn't it? Will it ever get easier?
It will. It will. We just have to learn how to appropriately rewire ourselves so we can break out of the survival mode that has defined our existence for eons.
Is this episode about money?
It is.
Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay, this I want to pay attention to.
Okay. Focus.
And now I'm focusing.
Exactly.
Focusing.
Yeah.
Okay, so.
Yeah. Because what has defined human survival has been, especially of late, the hustle and grind, or, you know, the work until you die, or slave away for another, or a system, and all because of separation, right? So we have this, all of our experiences have equated work as the key to our survival.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we have this very warped sense of what work really is. And
well, you can even make it bigger than that, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think about this a lot. You know, when you look at love and relationships, you don't deserve someone until you've worked on yourself. Mm-hmm. Get the right job. You've got to go to the right university. You've got to get the right grades. You've got to have the right tutors. Like, you've got to work really hard. Mm-hmm. You know, if you're not successful, it's because you didn't work hard enough.
Yeah.
And we have that in separation and everything, right? The harder you work, the more successful you are.
Yeah.
Which we know is bullshit because actually I worked really hard at trying to be lovable for myself, but all I did was the opposite, right? Mm-hmm. Because I was working at it. I believed it required work when actually I just had to be me.
Yeah.
So we know that, and we also know that that's not necessarily the case on some level, because we still do things like we try and like strike it lucky by like buying the lottery ticket or like meeting the perfect person who's going to like heal us out of our misery, or, you know, we all keep trying the quick fixes.
Yeah.
Because I think on some level we know it doesn't have to be that hard.
Yeah.
But also separation is instilled in us. We have to work. And so our idea of success is warped. Because it's tied to like that hustle and grind and, you know.
How well you've survived. And we've talked a lot about like how hard we've have to work at relationships and emotions, and that, you know, I think season after season, we've kind of taken that view through karma, but we don't talk so much about the sort of physical or temporal experience of working at something.
Yeah, you've got to work, and then eventually you'll be given the prize at the end of the tunnel, or you know, in this physical world.
Yes, exactly.
Or even like on our body level, it's like when you see someone with a good body, you're like, oh, they've worked in the gym and they've only eaten lettuce leaves and everything we do.
So it's the woman who just ate salad.
But I also had like a sushi, and I also had a sandwich. I mean, I had 3 lunches in one.
I had a lozenge.
When you link money to that, it's even worse, because the people who are rich, you assume that they've worked really hard to get there.
People who have a lot of it,
The people who have a lot of it, they've either worked really hard to get there, or they've inherited it from someone who's worked really hard to get there.
Yeah.
And they haven't worked at all, so we're going to resent them for it, because they didn't work and somehow they got the rewards.
Yeah.
Right? So like, however we look at it, like, it's toxic as fuck.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
It's super fucked up.
But I don't fully understand how money works in kind of this kind of 5D way.
Yeah, we actually haven't talked about it enough. Like when
we talk about greed and like the things like, you know.
We have talked a bit about it.
Economy. Tumbling, but we don't really,
we haven't. There haven't been many episodes about it, so I thought it was really interesting that it came through as the second episode of the season about fate and magic,
which I'm into.
Yeah, no, I thought you'd be kind of excited. I hope we can deliver on this episode.
Well, my expectations are rock bottom.
We knew you'd finally get there. Remember, hopeless.
Yeah, you wore me down. Don't know why I'm here, but I am.
So, you know, it's funny. I don't even know where people are at in sort of the healing world about money, right? There's always the sense of like, you know, we're going to move towards a world where currency isn't going to be a real thing, or at least not in the same way. And maybe there'll be more of the barter system. And,
I mean, not even that. I just think if we look at it small, it's like that some people are like, money's the devil. Yeah. And other people are like, no, demand what you're worth. So money is energy, right? Like, you know, it's abundance.
Yeah.
It allows us to bring to us what we need for our world.
It's a feature of abundance.
Yeah.
It's a feature of abundance. Yeah. It's not what abundance is necessarily about, right?
Yeah.
Abundance is for all in 5D. And because money is so inextricably linked to our survival and to our world and how it operates, its importance will not be diminished in our lifetime or even in the next. And so it would be a waste of time for us to kind of go into this sort of spiritual, like, oh, you know, we're going to find other means and ways to live. And, you know, it's not realistic.
Yeah. If you want to get on a plane and go somewhere, most of the time you're going to buy a ticket.
Yeah.
So you're going to need the money to do that.
Yeah. You need to eat.
Yeah, you can make it smaller. You make it more realistic. Yeah.
How about like,
I know, but some people like grow their corn and stuff. But yeah, no, I agree with you.
Okay. For those of us who live in London, I'm not growing corn anytime soon. I can barely keep a plant alive. I have no sun. Okay. Yeah, it's true. It's true. My basil always dies.
No,
so
it's true.
And it's true. You know, we did. Okay. I think the one thing we had touched on was as our relationship to ourselves shifts, as we treat ourselves more respectfully and we treat others more respectfully, we come into a more respectful relationship with money, and that shifts, right?
I mean, for sure, when we're in our karma and when we're not feeling good enough, how we use money to plug that hole. So you're going out to like buy the dress so that, you know, you look better because you don't feel good enough. Or you're wasting it on experiences to numb, or, you know, you're leaking money on trying to fill up the hole of not being good enough and never succeeding, right?
Yeah, because you're leaking your energy towards your karma or the need for validation, etc.
Etc.
Yeah.
Whereas definitely the more you kind of come into yourself and you're like, I am enough, all of a sudden you don't necessarily need the things you thought you needed, but you might want other things.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm much more likely to be like, no, actually, I know myself.
Yeah.
I know I need a break, or I know actually this is good for me. So I'm happy to spend it because I'm coming from a place of it's a joy to spend it rather than a need to make me feel better. And there was actually two very different things.
Yes, absolutely.
And it actually echoes how I feel about my own energy in some ways, right?
Yeah. And when you travel, that's kind of multiplies the joy, right? It gives back as well.
Yeah.
As opposed to maybe the dress to fill a hole, that's not going to give back.
And then in the end, I'm going to end up filling it in some kind of landfill hole later when I chuck it as well, you know, like it's not. But anyway.
But the one thing that we didn't really talk about last season that I'd hoped we would talk about, which was more abundant stuff, right? Was money and its creation. How to create money.
Okay, how do we create money?
Effectively, because we have this association that the harder you work, the more money you make. Right? And therefore, in order to survive, you must work hard. Yeah. In order to succeed, you must work harder. Yeah. Now, in 5D, maximum effort does not equal wealth creation.
Does it maximum effort equal anything positive?
Not in 5D, maybe in 3D, sure, if we want to force ourselves and stuff ourselves into that box in order to make that work. But we're going to find that the more we try to apply those old methods, we're going to find ourselves less and less successful.
Interesting.
Right? To the point where it's just going to work against us, or we're just going to be spinning our wheels and not really getting anywhere.
So how do we do this?
Wealth creation is twofold. Okay. The first is desire. So realizing what is in our ultimate fate from a place of higher consciousness.
So this one...
this requires higher consciousness.
So we've moved. So desire in episode 1 was just consciousness.
Yeah. I know what I desire. Okay. For instance, it could be as simple. We're gonna stick with that travel metaphor.
Okay.
I desire a holiday. It's not because I work hard and I deserve it. No. So I've created this illusion or this false scenario.
Something owes me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Or I need all this hard work to be validated, and therefore I'm going to treat myself.
Yeah, I hate those words. If you're treating yourself like you're either making it out to be like you're some victim that needs to be helped with something, or that what you're doing is wrong in some way, and this is the excuse. It just comes across weird. You don't need to treat yourself,
right?
Because actually we should be treating ourselves all the time. Our lives should be a treat for ourselves.
Because we're not in flow. If we're constantly acknowledge that we need to be treated, or
we're not a dog requires a biscuit.
We're deserving of something. Yeah. It evokes that sort of victim mentality. The previous episode, so episode 1, desire was the full-bodied want for nothing more or less than what aligns us with our ultimate fate. Here, when it comes to wealth creation, the desire is realizing what is in our ultimate fate from a place of higher consciousness. So those are two distinct things.
Okay, what are the differences between them?
Obviously, one is higher consciousness.
So one is you understanding that you can create money.
Yes.
Which actually makes sense, because if you're in consciousness, as in you're not using your spiritual body, the idea that you can create money is not possible, right?
Exactly,
Because
right.
it's just mental, emotional, physical. You can only really create wealth from a place where you believe it's possible, which
Yes.
means it's from like a spiritual place.
You don't just believe it, you know it to your very, very core.
because you can create
Do
anything.
whatever the fuck I want.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that makes sense from that place.
Yes.
But then there's nothing of the more or the less or the this or the that. Why is all of that?
Right. Because it doesn't matter.
So
In
I
this
can create
case.
as much money as I want.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. No caveat. I was like, pause.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I could be a billionaire.
You could. That's why we see the rise in billionaires. But there's also number 2,
Okay, which
right?
is
Purpose.
okay.
So the more engaged we are with our purpose, which is to serve, right? So ultimately, everyone shares the same purpose, which is to serve the collective. It's how we do it that is distinct to every individual.
Yeah.
So the more engaged we are with our purpose, the more supported we are, as in the giving gets back.
Purpose is effectively you being your divine self on this earth plane, right?
Yeah.
You're expressing, no, sorry, how you express your divinity is your purpose.
Okay.
That's the words I use. I apologize.
Okay.
You know, so, and ultimately, as you express your divinity, you are serving the collective because you're like reminding people that they are also divine and
It's
helping
really
them
funny.
find it.
You're the one saying divine and divinity, and I'm like, it's just to serve the collective, however you do
No,
it.
because I actually feel like the way I say it makes it more powerful. I can't explain it.
You run with it. I'm
Yeah.
just laughing because
No,
you
'cause
always
I don't
blah
mean-
blah
yeah,
blah
yeah,
me
yeah.
when I say
I definitely
divine or
yeah.
divinity.
No, because I definitely blah 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 you, and I apologize, kind of, not really.
I was gonna say, don't bullshit me.
I can't lie. Well, I've never been able to. I'm not going to start now. But what I mean is that, like, because when you say I'm expressing my divinity, right? For me, what that means is I am doing whatever the fuck I want to do, whenever I want to do it, because I am my own God.
Okay, so that just speaks to the inner rebel in you.
Yeah, so I think that's why I like it so much, right? I'm not
That is the
thinking about
mission
it.
statement of the inner rebel.
Yeah. So like, it's not like I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god," I'm talking about it from a place of like, I'm not talking about it, unfortunately, from that expanded Kumbaya place at all.
No,
Which is
it
a
doesn't
shame.
have to be.
But for me, when I say I'm expressing my divinity, it's acknowledging that I can really do whatever I want, and that is perfect because I'm divine. You know what I mean? So that's why that feels, and it does for me feel extremely powerful, and it feels extremely, I'm owning who I am and expressing it.
It's
and
huge.
it's divinity. I don't know
is.
how, there's no other word for it apart from divinity, right?
Okay.
But for me, when I think of it that way, and I'm like, you know, and to do so makes me happy, right? Then how I serve is obviously more tangible. Someone's listening to this podcast, you can hear it. But how I really serve is from that place of joy and happiness and what I've created. I either inspire other people to do the same or help them and teach them how to do the same, right? In all the different ways and all the different things. And that's kind of what I see today. But tomorrow everything could change. I might decide tomorrow, like, you know, another opportunity might come up, which might be entirely different. But there's also another aspect of me just, again, doing whatever I want because I am divine, right?
Yeah.
But when we say service, often a lot of people will be like, oh, so that means that like the more I help other people, the more money I get paid. And I don't think that's what you mean.
Or if I start a foundation or a charity
Yeah.
or some NGO or whatever it is.
It's like the
that's-
more pious I am, or like the more
Yeah.
like
the
how
more specifically geared this is towards helping the quote unquote less fortunate
yeah.
somehow, right?
Yeah.
Like I merit all of this.
But you can serve the collective by inventing something and moving technology forward and actually making a lot of money from that because you could like Alexander Graham Bell.
Yeah.
Sorry, wealth? Do I keep
No, you're doing great. I was just going to say something or like helping them with their karma.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you know what I mean? Like Alexander Graham Bell served the collective in his own way.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, anything serves the collective. Like we don't need to think about it as helping other people move forward. It's helping the collective evolve and grow, however that looks like. And that is actually a very different thing.
Yeah, now you understand why the first episode was really banging on about growth and evolution.
Yeah, kind of.
It was really the seed.
Okay. So that's really what we're talking about this season.
Well, then that's how, because fate is our growth and evolution. It's the map of our entire growth and evolution.
In all the different ways.
In all the different ways.
Yeah.
And so this is just one of the ways.
It's funny. I see a tapestry, but I see it like with lots of little like fairy lights. just because it's a bit like cosmetic. So yeah, so that's why when we say serve, it could be that too. So you might need a fuck ton of money for, I don't know, spending on R&D, or you might need, who knows? You might not know.
Yeah.
But actually, when we talk about service and giving back and you get what you give and all of that kind of stuff, like, yes, but it's not necessarily what you think it is. And the more you try and do that, what you're eventually doing is it's kind of anti-purpose, if I may say, if you're coming from that space, because you're assuming someone is lesser than you.
Exactly.
You're assuming someone needs to be saved.
Yes.
You're assuming someone is a victim. You're not empowering people to keep growing. You're saving them instead.
You're just enabling them.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
victim.
a different space. Like, yeah, of course there are foundations. I mean, I worked in the charity sector for years, and I know that there can be loads of good stuff that can be done. And some of the people I work with today still do amazing stuff in foundations and things like that. But it's about looking at actually how are we helping people grow and evolve? The goal in this, and I am not speaking out of my ass here, the goal is really to give people the tools so that they can create their own lives. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're effectively continuing to create people who are reliant on others. And you perpetuate their victimhood rather than actually help them out of it. So if you are more engaged in your purpose, i.e. helping humanity as a whole move forward, whether it's as simple as you being yourself and showing other people, oh, wait a second, like I can be happy too. That's humanity moving forward. Or something as big as I'm going to create the telephone 2.0.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Like that's what you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And everywhere in between, it doesn't quite matter.
No, I know. I was just giving really extreme
yeah.
examples. But in 3D, that wasn't the case,
no,
right?
No,
so
you didn't create wealth. It wasn't about wealth creation. It was about
wealth earning.
Yeah, wealth accumulation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you needed to have more and more for a rainy day. We all had rainy day funds, saving funds.
Yeah, I mean, you're pretty much using resources, right? That available resources, either earths or something, and the combination of like toil and hard work.
Yeah.
And you would have, well, funny enough, interesting, they use the term focused endeavor for hard work.
Okay.
It's really interesting.
Why?
Really interesting choice of phrase. Because endeavor actually is another word for hard work.
Okay.
Right? Work is often that sort of ubiquitous term, spiritual work, emotional work. It gets thrown around a lot.
Yeah.
So it gets confusing when we say, I'm going to do the work, but wait, I shouldn't be working. But wait, it's not about work. So focused endeavor is another phrase that they offered, which I kind of liked.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, fine.
So you just accumulated wealth various ways, right? Either, again, focused endeavor or law of attraction or mining resources. In this moment where we're sort of in between 3D and 5D for a lot of people, it's almost impossible to practice wealth accumulation as we're seeing, right? It's almost like no matter how hard you work, you can barely pay your bills. 5D is not about the vertical hierarchy that 3D was, right? So one's purpose or desire is not necessarily less than another, right? It's not to sort of be like, oh, look at that person, their purpose, or they don't seem to want for much because look at the size of their home or look at their car, or we're not looking at any of that none of that matters. And it's not as if they're less ambitious. It's just, again, when a soul is choosing its fate, when it's creating the map, right? Maybe with fairy lights, as you like to see it, for its growth and evolution, its purpose will be in line with all of that. So maybe it doesn't need that much. Maybe that soul is just going to require a really simple life in a nice town.
And actually that's what makes them happy, because maybe if they had a different life, they wouldn't be happy.
God, it's not about looking at it as who has more or less, who's doing more or less, right? Who's flying people to outer space and who's creating cars or who's creating the next thing. It's not about comparison. The soul has chosen, and we honor and respect that choice, whatever it is.
So how do we create money?
You're like, circle back, Liz.
Yeah.
Desire and purpose.
Okay.
As we said before, it all is about coming from a place of higher consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Again, that is the number one key. If you are not in that place of, I am not just divine, but I am the divine, nothing will work.
Yeah.
Okay. And no, it's not like, oh, once you get there, you realize you don't need anything anyway, so you just don't need anything. That's not the point, right? Or you don't need money if you don't need anything. That's not the point. It really is that once you are in that place, you are operating from your largest fate. Here we go with the big tapestry and the fade and everything, right? And you're already operating with the knowledge from higher consciousness. I am not just divine, I am the divine. And living out your purpose fully, you are beyond 25% in your fate tapestry. It means that you have a very clear view of the next 10%. That level of clarity allows you to kind of foresee how much you require for your purpose. Now, when you are at that point is when you can then calculate, and in the basic maths now, you can actually, your soul is very aware of what is required to complete that 10%. And every time you have a view more and more is when then you can start figuring out, and they're not saying numerically, but it's almost like in the bigger picture, it's not just maths. But can I conceive of something so big, yet and deep down know it's so possible, and I'm just going to work towards that little by little, step by step, even if that goal that goal is sort of Z and I'm only at B. I know I can't necessarily get all the way to Z, but I'm going to try.
And actually, I might end up doing something else in the meantime, which is what I was always meant to do.
By the time I get to M, I might have segued off and done something else because I've discovered, or somehow invented in this mission, in this process, I've somehow discovered how to cure cancer.
Yeah.
I've patented this drug, or I've invented.
It's kind of holding on to that larger point, but not expecting that larger point to be fulfilled. It's just the direction in which you're going.
Exactly.
So
because we all need some kind of direction, right? Exactly. And this is going to actually come into the next episode. We all generally need a direction. And the broader that direction is, the wider that is, the more possibilities lie within our fate.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right? So wealth creation comes in because it says, well, gee, in order to get from B to D, I'm going to need some money.
And this is the one thing I have noticed is that sometimes it's really weird. The money I get is stuff that I did years ago and I didn't understand what the point of it was. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, like a random share that I bought that all of a sudden it's time to sell.
Yeah.
Or things like that. So the one thing I've definitely found about magic, if I can say this, is it transcends time.
Very much, very much. It's a good point because it really has nothing to do with time. In this case, in order to get from one to the other, if I know that this is completely in line with my fate, that this is going to serve the collective, then with clear intention, I require money in order to get to the next point. I may not know exactly what that is, but I do understand that it is in service to.
Okay.
But I'm doing it from the point, again, of higher consciousness because it is not about me. I am detached enough from this scenario.
But it's not about me as in I'm not Rhea needing to feel better about her life and blah, blah, blah.
Exactly.
It's about me as in I am here to shine my light.
I am the vehicle for this work.
Yeah. Okay.
Right? I need to get my vehicle. I need to get from one point to another. And this vehicle runs on something and it's called money. And very clear intention, that money is going to enable me to facilitate all of this.
But not in the sense of you need to, again, just going back to the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
It's not in the sense of, oh, I need this money. And so therefore, because I feel I need this money, I'm going to now search my brain for a reason why it helps people.
Mm-hmm.
No. That's not what you're saying, I assume. It's not that. It's just.
No. It's about it's actually about that work.
Yeah.
Not the work, not focused endeavor, but it's actually about the service. And I will say this as well. That desire is such a profound feeling. It is this is it. It requires a great deal of clarity, which is why this can only be season 9 stuff.
Okay.
Because I do see people who are on mission. I do see people who are very 5D beings, if not in 5D, really heading there. And they're struggling a bit. They really want, whatever their service, or whatever their purpose is to take off. But perhaps they're not completely there yet to hold that desire from a detached place, enough of a detached place.
So how do you know you're in higher consciousness?
Okay, 2 things. 1, can you honestly and sincerely, with great truth in your heart, say, I am enough? And the second is, can that truth embody the divine? So you would know or experience this because you could only stand in your light fully, without question, all the time.
In the enough thing is, are you out of your karma? Are you out of your fear? Are you out of your ego?
Yeah.
That's number one.
Yeah.
And number two, can you see that there's something bigger than you and that you are that bigger thing, right? And the result of which is what eventually you said, which was, I can't but be me and honor that in everything I do.
But me as the full divine.
But me, as in all of me. Because nothing can tell me I'm not good enough because I'm the divine.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense. And also, can I just ask something really obvious here? I just want to make sure are we talking like Hakuna Matata style? Like wealth creation isn't just money because like we have enough love? Or
No. It is really about money. It is about money.
But you won't be accumulating it and like keeping it the way you used to. It's just, I know I'm going to need this stuff and I know that I will have enough to do it.
Yeah. So that brings us to the previous episode 1, which will again be the seminal episode of whatever part of that we're dealing with here in this season, which is it keeps us in flow. So money will always have to be in flow. Yes, it will be important to have it, but it will not be helpful or important to keep it.
Yeah, because you're spending your joy because you know you'll have more joy just as much as you're spending your money because you know you have more money.
Yes, that and the value of money will constantly be shifting. It doesn't help to hold on to it either.
Okay.
And we're going to see it in different forms, but we don't mean in different forms in like, oh, can I just live on love and, forms of currency, like
that's what I was meaning.
The sort of ethereal or sort of other energies out there. Yeah. No, it's just more that like, it is, if it's here to serve your purpose, then it just keeps coming in and keeps going out. Our view of, if money goes, then that becomes lack. So in 5D, everything that we do, right, will be associated with our sincere effort to live in love, just as we talked about, right? It comes from that heart place. So in order to engage with our purpose. And given that our life paths are intended to allow us to grow and evolve, again, episode 1, fucking grow and evolve is just going to be that phrase. You're just going to be...
I'm already sick of it. And I've been sick of it since other seasons.
You're like, since 2020. Yeah. I wish there was another term, just like they gave us focused endeavor for hard work, but I don't think they're going to give us anything else. So those concepts are going to grow and evolve with us. Just as part of being in 5D and living according to our fate is about abundance, right? Our notion of abundance will grow as well, which is really nice because we're really not meant to get into this locked idea, much like in 3D where we have a very fixed idea of success and survival and work. So in 5D, those concepts get to evolve as we do. So I'm curious to see how we get to kind of mark those changes and those shifts. And I do want to be able to see some in my lifetime. And the one thing that I think is really interesting that they were saying was you can't make wealth creation a goal in 5D. It just won't work.
Oh, damn. I just made one.
No, but you can't make it a goal. You can make it a byproduct. Again, desire and purpose, but it cannot be the singular goal. Like there's so many people, there are people who are like, I want to get rich and retire by 30. Whatever you want has to come through your own act of creation. Yeah. You create that. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So you say it, but not because like in a manifestation-y way, the law of attraction is going to bring it because I'm so focused on it or I'm doing this great spiritual work and therefore I'm going to deserve it as a reward.
I've learned that the hard way. It's not because of what I do, therefore I'm such a great service to the collective, therefore I'm going to be rewarded with £1 million when I play the next lottery. Mm-hmm. That's not what I mean. It's just I've created the work life where I can shine my light. Mm-hmm. That's it. And if I need to do stuff for that work, I'll find the money for it, or one hopes it will provide me money to do all the other stuff. Yeah. Who the fuck knows, right? That's all it is. I've just created something to do in my days that I enjoy.
One final caveat before we end this episode. What if somebody comes to us and says, I'm really in my purpose.
Yeah.
I had very clear desire.
Yeah.
And yet I did not experience wealth creation.
Me too.
It's not for lack of desire. It's for purpose.
What is in their purpose isn't, they're not meant to be wealthy.
Everybody's meant to live in abundance. Okay. Not everyone's meant to have a private plane. That's not the point. No. As in, they're actually not living their purpose the way they were meant to.
Okay.
As in, it's time to pivot. So it's not to say that you wasted your time. It's not to say that, building up that other, or having that project, or building up that other business or whatever, but that your focus needs to go elsewhere in order to realize that purpose. Yeah. And then it will come. So it's not about frustrating yourself and saying, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening?
It's about, okay, let's try something else.
Exactly. It's all right, that's not your full purpose then.
Yeah. But you don't even need to define it as such. It's all right, it's not happening this way. Let's try and figure out another way.
Yeah. But it's purpose related. It's not desire related. Thank you for listening. For more information, articles, and inspiration, find us at karmasmybitch.com and at karmasmybitch.insta.
And if you liked what you heard, please subscribe and leave us a review.